This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, interviewing in support of the Mining Journal Select Conference in London, July 1st and 2nd. Understand that at the conference, we'll have over 20 hours of programming in 2 days, more than you can possibly absorb. To that end, before the conference, we're attempting to interview every exhibitor and every speaker so that you can allocate your time and your capital at the conference more efficiently. It is in your interest to identify those exhibitors that you would like to interact with, study them before the conference, and in fact, reach out to them before the conference. This will allow you to get the maximum benefit from your conference attendance. To that end, I'm interviewing Sarah Armstrong from Cordoba Minerals. Cordoba is a company that I have long familiarity with. It is a company that is probably at least indirectly in the Robert Friedland stable with Ivanhoe Electric, which I would suggest is a strong vote of confidence. Sarah, thank you for your efforts on behalf of Cordoba shareholders, and thank you too for your sponsorship of the Mining Journal Select Conference.
Welcome, Rick, and thank you for having me today.
Tell us something about the people at Cordoba. Tell us something about the human resources, with particular emphasis on their demonstrated expertise at the task at hand, which is exploring for copper and other minerals, both in Colombia and Arizona.
Sure, Rick. Look, I think you mentioned and you highlighted on it just a moment ago. We are part of the Robert Friedland Group. Ivanhoe Electric is our majority shareholder, and we share resources between the companies. So we have people that work for both Electric and Cordoba. I myself have been with the group for 14 years. In various companies, in various positions. I have a legal background, and a lot of the guys that we have in Cordoba have a technical background in geology or engineering that are also working at Cordoba and within the Ivanhoe Group. So I think we've got a very strong and experienced team when it comes to exploring for copper, and we have great support behind us.
If you've worked with Robert for 14 years, you are both a tough and a smart lady. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's take us through something about the task, or in this case, the tasks at hand. Let's begin with Alacran, Scorpion, for those of you who don't speak Spanish.
Yes.
A deposit that I've been around for at least a decade in Colombia, and then we'll move on to Perseverance, if you don't mind. But let's begin with Alacran.
Sure. So in December of last year, we announced our feasibility study results, which was $360 million after-tax MPV, IRR of 23.8%, and a 3-year payback period. The Alacran project is a traditional or conventional truck shovel open pit. It currently has around a 14-year life of mine. Although we can extend that by probably up to another 5 years by bringing in the satellite pits surrounding that. It is around 70% copper, 27% gold, and a 3% silver credit. It's easy mining, low strip ratio, and it's something that in terms of mining we can have in production in the very near future. So it's a modest-sized project, especially being part of this group. It is a modest-sized project, but it is something that is economically viable and that we could get into production at the end of 2026 or early 2027.
Now, my understanding is, despite the financial and technical muscle of the Ivanhoe Group, that you've chosen to bring in a joint venture partner. Could you describe something about that relationship, please?
Sure. Actually, the joint venture partner, JCHX, so they're contract miners. They've been long-term friends of the group. So they worked at OT and Kamoa-Kakula, where they came in ahead of schedule and under budget. And so when we're looking at bringing in a strategic partner at the project level to continue advancing this project, it seemed that they were a very good fit. They're very experienced. They invested initially with us in 2019 at the public company level and have been great supporters. And so we're moving the project ahead with them as our joint venture partner at the project level.
For the benefit of the attendees, OT is Oyu Tolgoi, Kamoa-Kakula, of course. the flagship deposit of the Ivanhoe Group. Worth noting, both of these are top 10 copper deposits in the world. Let's move on to Perseverance. You've expanded now north. Tell us something about what you're hoping to achieve in Arizona.
Sure. So Perseverance it's on, we have quite a large land package there. It's on the same trend that hosts Rio Tinto's Resolution mine. We've done some initial drilling there, but really we're at the stage where we need to undertake some further geophysical work to identify the drill targets and get drilling there a little later in the year. That's much earlier stage. It's an exploration project. And it's also a copper project. And for those of you who don't know, 10% of the world's copper does come from Arizona. So we feel that we're in a great zone for exploring for another copper deposit there as well.
When somebody mentions Resolution, the first fear that comes into mind is permitting. Tell us something about permitting, both in Colombia and then laterally in Arizona.
Sure. If I start with Arizona, haven't had any issues to date. We've got both state permits and agreements with private landholders. We've got someone there working on that with us, but to date we haven't had any issues with that. So we've been very, very fortunate. But I do understand that concern that comes up with Resolution. In Colombia, there are 2 permits required to build a mine. We filed one of them in 2021. And the second permit, which is the all-encompassing permit, is the environmental impact assessment study. We filed that in December of last year, and generally that takes around a year. So we would hope to have that permit in the last quarter of this year and move into early works construction at the beginning of next year.
So we're talking, at least in terms of value, of fairly well demonstrated $360 million worth of value, net present value. In Colombia, I assume that the copper price assumption there was reasonable as opposed to sky high.
Sorry, there is a little bit more uplift there. The copper price used at the time was $3.99.
Nice. And assuming, as I believe, you will enjoy exploration optionality at Cordoba and perhaps at Perseverance, tell us something about the market capitalization of your company. In other words, how much is somebody paying for 360 million plus in net present value?
Sure. Look, I think, I'm sure a lot of people say this. I think we truly do have a disconnect between our market cap, which is sitting at around 40 million Canadian dollars, and the value of the projects that we've got in particular. If you look at the Alacran project, I mean, I think there is a discount when we're looking at other juniors on the TSXV and the commodity prices. And I think there's always a bit of a discount when it comes to Colombia. From a sort of a perception of risk factor there. So I think it's a great investment. The market cap's low, the stock is cheap, and we have a huge amount of upside, in particular with a project that we can get into production within the next 2 years, and with the supply and demand issues that we're having with copper at the moment globally, and this being a 70% copper deposit. So I think it's a great opportunity, and also with Arizona being an early stage exploration project for copper too.
Sarah, for those attendees who would like to learn more about Cordoba even before the conference, whom might they contact and how might they contact that person?
Okay, so for anybody interested, they can contact our Manager of Investor Relations, Ran Lee. Her email is rli@cordobamineralscorp.com.
Sarah, thank you, first of all, for your efforts on behalf of shareholders, both of Cordoba and other Ivanhoe Group companies. And thank you, too, for your sponsorship of the Mining Journal Select Conference in London.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you for your time.